Good evening, good night, or good morning to everyone. This is the LFC Transfer Room live stream coming to you live from, in my case, Boston. And I am joined today by my wondrous co host, Mr. Ben and Mr. Lou. Ben, Lou, how are you guys?
Very good, mate. Very good. How about yourself?
Yeah, happy.
Lou, I'm good. Lou, how are you? This is my first stream with you, mate. How are you? It's always fun to have you on. I was not expecting to host today, but I'm always willing to, hold the fort down. How you doing, Lou? Did you enjoy the game today?
Yeah, it was good. Good. I was in work for it. I've had to go back and rewatch, but no, happy with the result. Happy with the performance.
Nice. And Ben, I know it's been a while for you, mate. How did you try to get the kitchen finished? Did your wife figure?
All finished, mate. I've got all the workmen out the house, and it's just nice to have everything back to normal. So yeah, absolutely over the moon.
Listen, I expect so many pictures in that group chat with us. Just to see how well you've done, and that way I can steal some inspiration for when we redo our kitchen and redo the house in the next couple of years. I expect that. Alrighty, so welcome everyone. Please like and subscribe before we get started. Today, welcome again for joining us. We're just gonna keep it really light today. The topics we're gonna talk about the game. We're gonna talk about some of the small little bit of news that's coming around the Liverpool internet spaces today. And just to get started off, we're just gonna start talking about the game. Another 3-1 victory. Didn't go behind this time, but it was nervy at times. Ben, I'm just gonna start with you, man. Just give me your general thoughts.
I thought it was just it was in spades, wasn't it? There was like good periods from both sides, but I thought once we went ahead, we controlled the game for like the 15-20 minutes after that. But they had their chances as well, didn't they? Really, so it could have gone either way. Really, in fairness. And then first 45 minutes, it was probably right that we were 1-1, but all in all, it was an impressive performance. I think if someone offered us 3-1 before the start of the game, we would have snapped their hands off. 3-1 again as well, by the way. So they're a tough team, aren't they? West Ham, they're in form as well, banging form, and usually when you play West Ham, you kind of expect to take them out and take them out pretty well, but because they were in a bit of form and they had a bit of momentum, obviously they had the tails up, but it was a good result. Everything went well, but it was nice to see as well that Antonio got his comeuppance.
I'm glad someone mentioned it before I did as well. I mean, listen, I don't think Mikel Antonio's ever really had a good game against us, that I can remember. Like can you remember a game that he absolutely terrified us? I was trying to remember, I think it was 2020, 2019, like when we 3-2.
Do you know what? I'm actually I'm a big fan of his as well. Like I've always been a fan of his. Like, for a number of years I said, oh, he's a good player, but all respect's just gone out the window after he's come out with that slur.
No, listen, he's on his own podcast. He's bigging it up. He's trying to make that third or fourth revenue stream. He's just on that grind like everybody else. He's on the stream with Callum Wilson. I'm sure Callum Wilson, was just giving him the big one too because Newcastle got beat 2-1. But Lou, I'll come to you, man, as well. Like, what were your general thoughts on the game as well? And Ben, I'll throw this question back to you once Lou's finished. Would you have done anything different? But Lou, I'll come to you, man. What are your thoughts on the game? Would you have done anything different?
No, I thought, considering the team we actually had, I think we played quite well. I do think at times we're a bit lackadays at the back. There's a definite sort of, when people actually get at us and have a go, at the moment, the confidence seems really low. Van Dijk in particular looks pretty shot. He doesn't look like he has any energy in him whatsoever, and he looks a bit nervous as well. Like, if someone's for the goal, he's very... I think if that was 2 seasons ago before he had the injury, he'd have threw himself at it to get rid of it, but he looks so tentative to sort of get into a challenge. Overall, it was good. We do need to go for the kill. I think at times we're very lackadays with it, and like at the beginning of the second half, I think we could have ran away with it, but we take our time. We're a bit too slow with it at points. But overall, it's a good win. West Ham are one of those ones that it's City, Spurs, and West Ham are the three teams that I hate playing the most because they could turn up and smash her like they did a few seasons ago to us, or they could get walloped. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get with them, especially with Bowen playing the way he is at the moment, and like you said, Antonio riling everyone up. So it could have gone either way. Happy with it. Everyone performed well. No major standout issues, like I said, apart from maybe Van Dijk. He didn't really look up to it today. But other than that, happy with the team, happy with the performance.
Do you think that could be because of Matt's sharpness? He hasn't really played a league game in about a month. The last league game he played was Newcastle away, which he got sent off because, he didn't play. Oh, what was the game after that? He didn't play Villa. He didn't play Wolves. He did play in the Europa League, which is a whole other thing because it just could just be a sense of Matt sharpness, match fitness.
I mean, possibly. He seems slow. Like when it was a few seasons ago, he was competing with Adama Traore for pace, and now he doesn't look like he's sharp. The minute a ball goes in the air, he doesn't look like he's imperious at the back, like he's going to get rid of it. He's looking around. He doesn't know what to do. He's constantly checking if there's someone else there, and I don't know if it's the injuries spooked him. I don't know if it is a match sharpness thing because he's been out for a month. But I've personally been seeing it since last season. He's not the same player anymore in my eyes, pace wise, physically. I feel like he might be suffering from like what Michael Owen did when he had like a really bad injury. He said himself, like he knew what he wanted to do, but his body just couldn't match what he wanted to do. So it might be going through the same sort of thing, and fingers crossed it turns around. But
Ben, are you feeling the same way with Lou there on Van Dijk?
I don't, I actually don't, because his stats are still like off the chain as well. Like the amount of aerial duels that he's winning, it's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, I do think sometimes it's a bit too casual, a bit too, I wouldn't say cocky, but maybe a little bit arrogant in doing the difficult things well, but doing the easy things bad, if that makes sense.
100%.
I think that's the issue. But I think that because the bar's been set so high with him over a number of seasons, when that bar drops, like he's open to that criticism. But for me, he's still the best defender in the Premier League. He still is. The only person who I would say who may give him a run for his money, Diaz. But for me, he's still the best, if not the best, one of the best defenders in the Premier League still.
And Lou, I don't want to I do get what you mean, because like when you look at Van Dijk, it does look more that he's putting more effort in. What made Van Dijk so good for so many years was that everything was just effortless, like his pace, everything, his timing, his light aura was just so effortless. I do think there is something where like he's definitely more conscious of it and more aware of it. I think we're drawing onto that a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, I think there is there is going to be some natural slowdown with the defender. With Van Dijk, just because he's 31 now, 32?
31, 32.
Yeah, 31. Yeah. So he's probably still got maybe a year and a half to 2 years at like a decent pace, for the most part. I get what you mean. Like if this was Van Dijk from 2 years ago, he probably does a little bit better. Though I do think for that goal, especially that Bowen scored, it's a great header, just stooping low into that bottom corner. But also I think we would be more critical of the build-up. The defense in that matter, not because they don't stop the cross, but I think that everyone just drops the line too deep. And, it literally just, like, if you look, like, everyone's running backwards where the cross comes in, and there's just so much space for Bowen to attack, would be my thoughts as well. Well, just to wrap up on the game real quick, who impressed you and who was the man of the match? So, Lou, I'll throw it back to you. Who impressed you the most, and who was your man of the match?
Well, from what I've seen, I mean, Gomez didn't have a bad game. He did very well from what I've seen. I've also seen someone say about the stats. I'm not giving a grief because of the stats. I'm just, Other than that, I mean, Salah's Salah. Let's be real. He just does what you expect of him. Nunez caused chaos. Obviously, he missed that early chance, like the easy chance, but he causes so much issues at the back, and I feel like he just panics everyone. And every game, it's becoming more and more. No one wants to play him. I thought he looked good today. Like he, as I say, missed the easy opportunity, but he was energetic and he was running at players and he was bullying them. And he started to bring people into play more as well. He's not playing like a false nine. His hold up play is so good. And today, I think it went a bit. If you just took the miss as what he played as, he looked great. So for me, it's either Nunez or Gomez, arguably. Alisson should save as well.
So you're saying Nunez or Gomez for your man of the match?
Yeah, one of them two. I think they stood out, especially with all the criticism and
talk
around them.
That's fair. I can see that. And Ben, what about you, man?
I don't know. Szoboszlai had another brilliant game, didn't he? Another fantastic performance, and it just seems that like he can do everything, flicks, jigs. He's just got everything. He's got abundance of it. But to be honest with you, when the team sheet came out, I think the name that everyone was looking for was Darwin Nunez, and his positional play to get in amongst it, to put himself. I know obviously he's missed a couple of chances, but to put yourself in the positions to score is the most important thing you can do as a striker. And it does cause chaos. And do you know what it is? I think, Lou, you mentioned it there. He gets the ball, and do you know, sometimes it's like he doesn't know what he's going to do himself. So the opposition stands absolutely no chance. Nunez ball. So I think he had a really good game, and I think we're starting to see exactly where Darwin Nunez fits in this team. So for me, Darwin Nunez all day long. And I thought Szoboszlai was great again, but I'm sick of saying Szoboszlai week in, week out. So
no, I understand that, but it's like, we're so spoiled for that as well. So before I get my final thoughts and we'll move on, guys, we have about just over 30 people watching right now. Make sure you like, subscribe, like us. You can get daily content here on the LFC Transfer Room. It really helps us out with the algorithm. You get to see my beautiful face, Ben and Lou here as well, just always holding down the fort. Ben talking about his kitchen remodeling that's always done. We just learned so much here on the LFC Transfer Room, LFC Transfer Room YouTube channel live streams. Also, guys, everyone who's watching right now and commenting, I am saving your comments, so we will go over them throughout the stream and also at the very end of the stream when we go into extra time. So let me just wrap up with my thoughts real quick, and then we'll move on to our first news topic. Yeah, no, I agree, Lou, with you and Ben. I actually think what has impressed me so much about Nunez, and I think Klopp mentioned this too, the work rate is it's there, but he's pressing more. His build-up play was so good. I know people are going to slaughter me, and you guys can slaughter me here too. It reminds me so much of Luis Suarez. I know that they're completely different, like technical levels and like physicality, but the amount of chaos they cause. But also, like they miss the easy chances. So I remember Suarez when we first got him with Dalglish. I remember that first full season with Brendan. That like he scored like I think it was 22 goals that first full season. Ben, can you check me on that, or Lou, one of you can check me on his first full season with Brendan before the 13-14 season. But he missed so many of the like really easy chances that he would score like the spectacular. That's the thing about Darwin right now is the fact that he's scoring the spectacular or the chances you would say like you don't have to think, you just step up and strike the ball, and then but then there are other times where like it's theoretically easier. He's missing them or hitting the post or hitting the keeper. I think Darwin's a good shout. I think for me the two players I do think deserve a lot of praise are Gomez and Curtis Jones. I think Curtis Jones gets a lot of stick at times. I think unfairly, but sometimes there are some fair criticisms. And obviously, Joe Gomez, I'm the biggest Joe Gomez supporter, I think, in this entire group chat. Unless Ben and Lou, you want to stick your neck out with me. Stick your neck out with me for that as well. But I think Gomez showed a lot of his quality, and I think as long as he gets game time, he will come good. So, Mr. Shakespeare, back from the dead, about 300 years later, do you think we can win the league, guys? I know me and Maddie are on this all his ways, but Ben, Lou, what do you guys think? Is it time to start chanting we're going to win the league, even though we're not top of the table yet?
I think it's a bit too early to say that we're going to win the league, but I reckon there's every chance. One thing that concerns me though is I've said that, and I said it from the start of the season, and I know we were speaking during the transfer room streams during the summer, and I was saying that. I know we were still in the summer at the time, but I was saying how much importance is on the January transfer window, because if we can stay amongst it going into January, and then we can add a couple of extra a bit of extra depth and a bit of extra quality in certain places. Maybe get a new centre back in January, and then there's every chance that we could. There's every chance that we could, but I think it's a little bit too early to say so. But you've got to give credit to Klopp as well, by the way, because the fact that we've got a whole new midfield and we're playing the way that we're playing, and the way we've started the season, the amount of points we've got on the board, it's just absolutely incredible. So in one sense, I feel like we're only going to get better. But the answer to winning the Premier League is, for me, depending on what happens in January. I know it sounds a bit bonkers, but I think that if we get ourselves in a position tight to City at the top, because I believe they're the only team that that are going to be above us in the league, then we have a chance. But we need to spend in January. But it concerns me a little bit, going on to the next subject I'm sure we're going to be talking about shortly, that what I'm hoping is going to happen in January probably is not going to happen in January.
Well, we can talk more. We can speculate about it later as we go along. Lou, what are your thoughts, man, before we get into the really juicy stuff?
I think in the past few seasons, we've seen too many times where we think this is it, we're going to win it, just have it taken away. I mean, there was 2 seasons ago, there was the 18-19 season, where we lost out by 1 point as well. At this point, I just think it's way too soon. We're looking good, but until that defence gets sorted and we stop conceding the goals that we are and we stop trailing, eventually we're going to run out of steam and not be able to make these incredible comebacks. We're going to struggle to get the goals back when we concede. And I think City, in my opinion, this is the best team that's been in the Premier League. This Man City team, you could take any player out of it and there's someone just as good to come in or near enough as good to replace them. And with a manager like Pep, it's so early and so difficult to say, we could do it. We definitely could if the injuries keep piling up, 100%. But I think it's way too soon. We've done great, but City have won every single game they've played. They've got Arsenal next. I think if they beat Arsenal, who many people are considering to be the second favourites, that's when you need to just start thinking, is anyone going to be able to stop them? Haaland's playing the way he is. It's just hard to say, really. I think the best thing City do is knock the hope out of you. And I think once that goes, it's like, what can we do to really catch them? So,
well, we can definitely talk. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, Dan, just to jump in there. I mentioned in the group the other day that we'll probably have an idea on how close we're going to go by the end of October, by the middle of November, really, because City have some really tough games in the next 6 weeks. They've got Arsenal away, Brighton at home. They've got United at Old Trafford. They've got Chelsea away. So if City are going to be dropping points, and they've got us obviously at the end of November as well, if they're going to be dropping points, they're going to be dropped in the next six to 8 weeks. And if they come out of that unfazed or unscathed, then it may be quite difficult to stop them.
I mean, we could drop. Was it 2 seasons ago we were top of the league after beating Tottenham in 2021, or like going into Christmas, was it? And then we plummeted. We went up. We died a death. So that could just as easily happen. It's going to take time to see where we actually are in comparison to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what you're referring to, Lou, is the 2020-2021 season, which is the COVID season. And that's when, we had the Firmino header. Trent says, best team won. Marino comes out afterwards and he's like, oh, the best team lost today. I think there's a lot of mitigating circumstances. I feel like we all of us kind of felt that was kind of built on quicksand, because that was pretty much down to like Matip was the only fit center back at the time. And, Van Dijk was out. Joe Gomez had like snapped a tendon in like England training. So I think we all felt that was all built on very rocky soil at the time. But I think Ben hit the nail on the head. I think we'll know at next international break. I think we'll have a very clear idea of like how the season's looking, especially considering how bad some of the teams look, and also how good some of the teams look as well. Speaking of our famous and favorite Cameroonian Joel Matip. There's reports that Liverpool are in the contract extensions with Joel Matip's representatives, as reported by Keto Rourke, who writes for the Footy Insider. Very much a secondary / tertiary source on a lot of the transfer news. Sometimes he's a big hit, sometimes a big miss. So it's just right now rumor. The only ones we know that they're actually talking to extend are Trent Alexander-Arnold, Thiago, who we'll talk about a little bit later, and Kostas Tsimikas. So, Ben, I'll come to you on this. Joel Matip, contract extension. One, do you believe it? Two, if you do believe it, how does that make you happy? Three, if you don't believe it, what do you think Liverpool should do moving forward?
It's a bit of a mixed bag of emotions because he had a good game today, but no, I'm a big. I love succession planning, and I think that looking ahead, looking at what we've got, in Virgil, Ibu, Gomez, Kwanzaa coming through, I'd like to go out and sign a world class or a world class potential centre back, for the long term. And I think that if Matip is signing, then to me that says that that's not happening. Because I think that that's kind of basically saying we're okay in this area, if that makes sense. They're not planning on moving anyone, and what we do know with Liverpool is that to bring someone in, then they need to tend to ship someone out. They need to balance the books somewhere, and I don't know whether there is much substance to it, but it is quite concerning. The way that Klopp came out and described him today as fantastic, superb. On the back of the speculation that there's a contract extension in the background, probably there might be some substance, but it's a bit. If it was 1 year, then it wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, at the age, I think he's about 32 now, isn't he, Joel?
That's a question. That's a question. I'm gonna look that. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up real quick for you, Ben, because I thought it was 33, but I could be wrong. But yeah, continue, Ben.
If it was one more season, and obviously the salary wasn't too much of a hindrance, then why not? But not at the expense of not signing another defender. I think that would be crazy. I think long term we need that succession planning in place for Verge, and I think that's like more important than tying Matip down to an extra year.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, 32. You hit the nail on the head. Lou, what are your thoughts on potentially extending Joel Matip?
I agree with what Ben said. I think if it's a sign of we're keeping him, no one really is going to come in, because we're not going to get rid of Van Dijk, Canate, Gomez. I don't think he's too versatile to go at the moment. I like Matip. I think he has more good games than bad, and he's a reliable player. He seems to have got over these injury struggles that he had for like a good few seasons. He doesn't seem to get them as much anymore because he's not as regular. My only thing to it is we saw this last season where Milner's in contract talks. There's talks we're going to keep him. Firmino's in contract talks. We might keep him. And we know that Klopp wanted to keep them, but either the player or the club said, no, we don't want them. So Klopp might well want to keep Matip, but the club might say, no, look, we need to plan ahead and move forward, which I get. So it might be that. The other side of it is Matip is still good enough that he could go to a club that's in the bottom half or even like towards the top half of the league. He could go to, he could play pretty much anywhere, go back to Germany. And I think if we just sign him, give him a 1 year extension, when he does go in the summer, if we were to sell him, at least we'd get a fee for him. And that would then go towards, because like Ben said, we're very much, you've got to sell to buy. And you could get a decent fee for him. He's good enough to go in a lot of teams. So signing a 1 year extension, selling him on, using the money, recouping it, and using it in a different part of the pitch or in the centre back area, I think it's good business.
No, I agree. And in fairness, Lou, just in terms of what you said there, I mean, the way he played today, he probably starts for United on the right wing.
Yeah, that's true. And also, JMU is hitting us with the wisdom. Hit those likes, everyone. Yes, we're trying to hit those likes. No, I absolutely agree with you. I actually think the plan is, if I was Liverpool, right now is to make Matip the 5th choice center back. Now, I think the big question is, does that mean the 4th choice center back is a new signing or Ciro Kwanzaa? And I think that's really the big question right now, because I think the long-term goal is for Matip to be Liverpool's 5th choice. I wouldn't be against a 1-year contract signing. I do disagree with you, man. I don't think it means they won't sign someone. Because I think the big question is where does Kwanzaa fit in? Because Kwanzaa got the start against Wolves. He didn't play the last game or the game before, and he didn't play today. So I don't know how much they want to put Kwanzaa into the firing line.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll sign a center back in the winter, and that's mostly because they're just not going to be that many center backs available in the winter. But I do think they would sign a midfielder. But that's just my opinion. I'm just trying to read kind of like what's out there. Like I said, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't say so much we're still to buy.
Sepp Vandenberg and that.
Yeah, but I think Sepp's going to go to Mainz. I think he's going to be sold for around 8 to 10 mil quid to go as well, because I think Kwanzaa's already ahead of Sepp. He's ahead of Reese. He's obviously ahead of Nat Phillips. And Nat Phillips was started at Crystal Palace, or started when Crystal Palace were home as well. Like I said, I wouldn't be against it. But my big worry with Joel Matip. Oh, Ben, you got to tell me what you're drinking there. Is that a Riesling? Is that a?
No, that was we're having a bit of a celebration today, so it's just leftover. It's just the leftover prosecco.
Nice. Listen, it's still classy. It's a classy. Get some fish with that, get some chicken. But I just think it depends on where Kwanzaa is in his development. Because I think if you sign Matip to an extension, you still need another center back. Because when the thing about Matip, we're worried about Van Dijk's legs going, Lou. If Matip's legs go, there's no hope, because with the way we play, the way Klopp loves to play, if you have a center back who can't run, we've seen what that looks like, with younger players like Nat Phillips and Reece Williams.
This is what I mean. He's now, because he's not. When we first got him, he was through straight into it, so he got injured so frequently, and the system that Klopp plays, it essentially adds 3 years onto your life. So that's why he was getting injured so much. But we've got so many, we've still got Kumetio out there. He's looking good at the moment. Sepp Vandenberg, like you say, he's questionable. We've still got Kwanzaa. Gomez is there. We're linked with all these centre-backs. There's a lot of options. I just don't see. I think keeping Matip does more good than harm. It's more of a benefit for us.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that in a very general sense, especially it feels like, everyone in the locker room kind of respects him, and, they have a good character. But, are you taking 30 mil for the Greek Scouser? If we get 30 million for Kostas Tsimikas, Jorg deserves to stay at, Liverpool as a lifetime ambassador, if that's the case. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion on the matter. Neil comes in with 15. He's being cheeky, for the most part.
I think there was a point maybe though. There was a point. Was it last season? It was the start of last season where he had a bit of a worldy run. So there was a point where you might have got something like that, but I don't see it. He's not looked too good recently.
Well, when Chelsea drop another $1 billion to replace their $1 billion they just spent on their team to make their team go from 15th to 10th, we might be able to swoop in and sell Costas for them and say, hey, you need a good left back, the backup Ben Chilwell. There you go.
If Cucurella is worth 65 million, Tsimikas is worth 100. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, Mark Cucurella had a really good run in that Brighton team, but I think Chelsea has just ruined so many careers over the past year. For the most part, I'm surprised. Go ahead.
No strategy whatsoever is there. It's absolutely no strategy.
No.
Yeah, 14
like a business.
Yeah. So and they're 14th right now instead of 15th. So Chelsea are definitely going to drain. But speaking of potential signings going forward, it's reported. So if people don't know this, Fabrizio Romano reported that Bruno Guimaraes has renegotiated his contract extension with Newcastle with a 100 million release clause, which means that PSG are going to buy him next year. But with a 100 million release clause, do you buy is Bruno Guimaraes our sixth that we're going to buy next summer, or our next midfield buying, if not a straightforward six?
I just don't know, to be honest with you. 100 million's a lot, isn't it? And is he £100 million player? He had a good season last season. Is he £100 million player? I don't know. I don't think so. But you know, once Klopp kind of gets eyes for someone, then he does tend to follow through with it. But for 100 million, not for me. He's good, but he's not 100 million. I don't think so. And I think the way this season goes as well, with him playing in the Champions League and stuff like that, you'll kind of be able to gauge where he's at and whether he deserves that sort of price tag. But 100 million?
Yeah, Lou, what are your thoughts on that? Well, one, do you like Bruno Guimaraes? You know, I think that's a good thing to start with.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I think he's definitely improved Newcastle since he come in, and they were punching above their weight when they got him. He's a good player, but he's, like Ben said, he's not what we need for 100 million as well. Like in the AC Milan game and what game was it that Newcastle played before that? The Brighton game. He's so he doesn't run, he doesn't put in energy, he's so passive, and he looks like he loses the ball, and his first instinct isn't to get it back, it's to sort of go, oh, well, you know, arms in the air, great, lost it. He looks like a luxury player, similar to, and I do like him, don't get me wrong, Thiago, in like, he can make a good pass, you know, he looks good on the ball, but is he really what everyone sort of thought he was going to be? I don't see him fitting into a Klopp system, and plus he's got a bit of he had a thing with the Newcastle fans on Twitter a few weeks ago, where he was giving them abuse, and he was saying like, if you don't like the way we're playing, don't watch, blah blah blah. I don't think that attitude would go well in a Klopp dressing room. Like he just doesn't strike me as a player we'd really be truly interested in, and for 100 million. We signed Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. You can do such better business for better players who are going to fit the mould better than a Guimaraes who's had maybe one good season, and that's about it.
So Helio brings a good point here, and this is, you know, goes back to all the discussions and arguments and name calling that we've had over the entire summer transfer window, which is, you know, we need a quote unquote proper DM. Helio, I'm not doing this to make your comment, but I think it's a good thing. What is a proper DM for Liverpool at this moment? Because let me just put on my coaching hat here for a second. If you look at how the league is going right now, every team plays a high pressing system. Every team tries to press the back four or the back three, whatever they play in a build-up system. If you look at how City play and how even Arsenal play, they don't play a lone 6 DM anymore. They play a double pivot, or that's what a 3-box-3 build-up is. And even in the game against West Ham, we play the 3-box-3, that double pivot with Gomez dropping into invert, only in the initial build-up phase. Then once we get into the attacking third, outside the midfield third, Szoboszlai and Gomez switch. So, you know, what would be the ideal number 6 signing that you would sign to play in that kind of double pivot? Because that is where the next evolution of the midfield is going to be, is that you're going to have this double pivot, whatever exists. If it's a 4-4-2, I don't know, 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, where you have a 2, you just flip the triangle instead of having, you know, 2 and a 1, it's 1 and a 2. You know, what would be your ideal DM? Lou, I'll throw it back to you, and then Ben, you can join in as well.
It's tricky. An ideal DM, I'm looking at someone like maybe a Tchouaméni. Obviously, I know he was linked with us, and that whole drama happened, but you know, he'd be a really good shout. It's hard because it's a dying position, I feel, just out and out defensive midfielder. Nowadays, everyone's expected to run and box to box. It's so hard just to find a brick wall defensive midfielder now. So it's difficult to say, but Tchouaméni's just the first one that popped in my head. Failing that, maybe Kimmich. Kimmich would be a good, you know, I know he's getting up in age now towards late 20s, but it's just a solid defensive midfielder who can ping a pass and he's versatile. Joshua Kimmich, maybe.
But Thomas Tuchel doesn't think Kimmich is a number 6, though. That's why they tried to buy João Palhinha, because he said, like, none of my midfielders are, quote-unquote, a defensive 6. And even Tuchel played with a double pivot. And I agree with you. I like Joshua Kimmich a lot. Ben, what do you think?
There's so many good ones out there, but there's not many good ones available. In fact, I don't think there's any that drop into that world class sort of category that are available. And then it's not just about, as I saw João Palhinha mentioned there, it has to be like the sort of profile that the club want as well. So Tuchmeni obviously would be one of the obvious ones. I think we're all on the Tuchmeni bus, but there really isn't that many. Boubacar Kamara, I think, would obviously be another standout as well. But I personally feel that we probably will go back for Andre in January and maybe spend big in the summer for that position as well.
If I'm putting my speculation hat on for a bit, I do think they go get Andre Trindade, get him locked in for January. And I agree with Paul Lindo here that, João Palhinha would be considered a quote-unquote proper defender, proper DM, I apologize, but that's not proper defender, because he just does everything. He's big, he's technical, he can win the ball, he's got long legs, he can intercept it, he can bring up play, but also play a pass. And that, I get what you mean there, like, Lou, because, the most proper quote-unquote DM that's still around is probably Ibrahima Sangare, and he's at Notts Forest. Idrissa Gueye and Andre Onana at Everton are also kind of like old school proper DMs where like they break up play and then play at 5 yards. The only problem with Everton is that no one really plays it beyond 5 yards. And, teams are now, you need to be able to play 30 yards or 40 yards or 15 yards.
It's because I saw one then that was saying the Kimmich one's lazy. He's just one of the first ones that popped in my head. It's so, because like Ben said, it's hard to say who's available and who'd fit our system, and it's tricky just to think of one. But like you said, I mean, Palhinha would have been a good one. Like you said, he would have been great. It's just so hot. Like Fabinho was he'd break up play and he was aggressive, and that was just his role really, was to win the ball back and occasionally get forward. Whereas now our midfield is just energy, pace, box to box, win the ball back, press. So it's tricky to pick someone who'd be just out and out defensive. All our midfield now is versatile. It can do both. It can play in both sort of attacking and defensive roles, and it's just hard to think of anyone who's just out and out defense.
I think we would have been all over Palhinha if there's definitely been some sort of inquiry there, but I reckon they've been scared at the sort of numbers that Fulham have wanted from a club like ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I know we did a stream, didn't we, about a month ago about Palhinha coming in and the sort of prices that were being touted. About 80 million, 70, 80 million, was it?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what fee Bayern agreed with Fulham for him.
And I think that when you look at it, 28 years old now, in terms of a profile of the type of signing that we want, we're not going to, be prepared to drop that sort of money for a player who's going to be at a peak, who's at the peak of his powers for a couple of years at best. So, so
Bayern agreed. It was 65 mil. It was 65 million euro, which was, I think, 5 more than it was 5 less than what we agreed for, Dominic Szoboszlai. And I like João Palhinha. I think that if you're going to spend 65, 70 million euros, they should have just bought Manuel Ugarte, who's I think is the one person we missed this transfer window who went to PSG. That's the one defensive mid that I think if they would have gone all out for, they could have gotten. But they went for Szoboszlai and McAllister first rather than Ugarte. And I think the only reason they did that was because, we didn't expect Henderson or Fabinho to leave. as well. But yeah, no, I think right now we'll get Andre in the winter. If we get Andre, I don't think we're signing another midfielder unless like a crazy deal happens or someone leaves or there's a big injury. And I think the next players they'll buy it will be defenders because regardless of even if we buy a number 6, you still need to buy defenders. Like I still think this team is about 2 to 3 transfers down the line that they need to do because we haven't seen Thiago yet. How many midfielders we played? We've played 7. We played all 7 of them. The one person we haven't played yet is Thiago. So I think that's the next one. Speaking of Thiago, and again, guys, we have over 30 people here. Just, make sure to like, subscribe, join in for all this, enjoyable news, talking about the Liverpool transfers, talking about, the games, obviously. And, at the end, like I said, extra time, I will be going over some of your comments that I have saved throughout the stream. So, Lou, I'll come back to you on this because Ben had the first dibs last time. So, reportedly, again, from Football Insider, is saying that Liverpool would be willing to accept a big offer. Doesn't say how much, but just says a big offer for Thiago in the January transfer window. We know they're already looking at potentially giving him another 1-year extension. Do you sell Thiago in the January transfer window if you get an offer for it? And if you do, what's that offer?
This is for when they say a big offer, what's a big offer with regards to someone in the 30s, incredibly injury prone, is struggling to make match fitness on a regular basis? Is a big fee like 15, 20 million for that? Like
I think it's 15, 20. Like what we sold him for.
Right, okay. So that's that's good for a player who barely plays. And I have been the biggest Thiago supporter since we've got him. I love what he can do. It was the Man United game 2 years ago when we absolutely thrashed them, and he was unplayable in that game. And he has games at moments where he's just the best player in the team by far. But is it not? Is it worth keeping someone on such high wages who, like I say, is in his 30s? He never plays because he's constantly injured. It's similar to the Naby Keita situation, but Naby had the potential to be great. Thiago's sort of past it now. I think he'd take 20 million. The Saudi League would happily take him, big name player. You invest the money in, like Ben said, like Andre or something like that, or another young midfielder. I just don't think he ever really fit our system, what we've been trying to do since he came in. And yeah, I'd say sell him if we have a plan, if we know who we're replacing him with, and we've got a price in place. Like Andre is 25 million rumored. If that's in place and we know we can get him, and we know that we'd get enough money for Thiago to invest it in him, not a problem. If it's just a case of selling because the money comes in and we don't have a plan and we're going to get left shortchanged, then there's no point.
Yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts too?
Well, I still stick to what I always say. A fully fit Thiago walks into the team because he's that good.
I agree with you.
For me, I don't see him leaving in January purely because I think if he was to have left, it would have been in the summer window just gone. I think with 6 months on his contract, 15, 20 million, I don't see anyone paying that. And I think, most likely he'll probably want to choose where he goes next season at the point of life he's at. But I also believe that, from what he's come out with in the summer, he's come out a couple of times, hasn't he? He still has that determination to win more at Liverpool, which is why I'd be surprised that if he was to leave in January. There's been a couple of comments, and I just feel that if he was to have left, it would have been in the summer. But he has that determination to win something. I believe that he wants a major honour at Liverpool. He wants the Premier League, or he wants a European trophy. So I don't see him leaving in January, and I think that if Andre was to come in a similar style sort of player to Thiago, it'll bed him in as well. So I think that he stays till the summer, and then he sets off into the sunset as one of the best in terms of talent that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with. Yeah, and I agree with you as well, Ben. And Lou, I take your point as well with the injury burners as well. Now, he did undergo surgery, and I think he had a setback. I think it was earlier last week, where it's just like whatever. It's just something that set him back in training, and he just couldn't train for last week. I don't think he's been in training this week. He's been in recovery with Trent, but he's still there. It's not like he's not even at the AXA facility as well. So if we're not, so obviously, I think all of us, Lou, I think you said that you would obviously sell him as 15 to 20, which I think Neil. We have a good point that no one's probably going to give us 15 or 20 million, but you never know, Neil. You never know. I wasn't expect PSG to be able to do FFP, but Qatar came to the rescue, and that's nothing suspicious about that at all. So if we're not going to sell him and he goes on a free, do we give him a 1-year contract, extension? Ben, Lou, what do you think?
I don't think that we'll give him a 1-year contract because I believe that for me, Thiago, I was reading a couple of things. He made a couple of comments. He made one on VAR recently. He's an old-fashioned football player. I believe that he'll probably want to, maybe go to Barca for a year or something like that. I just don't see us giving him a 1-year contract. I think that, he knows that if he goes anywhere else, he can still probably get 250 grand a week. And Liverpool are not going to offer Thiago, on what Lou said, number of injuries, the fact that he's not fit often enough, that sort of money. I think that money will be spent elsewhere. So I don't think he'll get an extra year.
Yeah, and also look before I hear your thoughts, man. Oh yeah, it's just I've noticed in the comments some people have seen it. Andre, the LFC transfer room guys did a really really good podcast with a Fluminense fan who talked a lot about Andre Trindade's likability. I also teach at a boarding school, and I have a bunch of Brazilian students, and they all follow Brazilian teams: Corinthians, Sao Paulo, Atlético Paraná, like all the big Brazilian teams. And they also rave about Andre as well. He's kind of like the next one, that kind of Bruno Guimaraes player, the one that hasn't made that step up yet, but he's the next one coming as well. So yeah, guys, little plug for extra content, but it's a great podcast. I recommend it. Just to learn more about teams in Brazil and South America. Just all the talents down there. So Lou, I'll come to you, man, and then we'll move into extra time. What do you give Thiago a 1-year contract extension? Like Liverpool do offer, and Thiago, do you think he will accept?
No, I don't. I think he wants, not that he wants to leave, but like Ben said earlier, if he was going to go, it would have been this summer. I think he knows his contract's up at the end of the year, and he could go somewhere and make the same amount of money or way more, like the Saudi league or something like that, or like you said, back to Barcelona. I think he wants his pick of where he goes next. He definitely is our most talented player in terms of what he can do, but I just don't see the point in extending it. We probably wouldn't get the 15, 20 million with 6 months left on his contract, but extending him just to sell it, like I said earlier with the Matip thing, the money that we make off it could be good if we were to extend it, but the money that we're paying him on wages, and at least Matip's actually getting in the team, whereas Thiago is so injured all the time, it's not justifying the money that I think he's our 3rd highest paid player, or he's in the top 5 along those lines. So
yeah, he's up there. I think it's 250
a week. Yeah.
Yeah, he's either second or third. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's not like you said, he's talented, he's brilliant. It's just not worth it. I think we just need fit players what's the most important thing at any football club is having players who play. Having an expensive marquee player who comes on every now and then and does something great. When he does those great things, amazing, like the Porto goal, but it's so few and far between. It doesn't justify spending that extra money to potentially get a bigger fee for him when he could just leave. We get his wages off the books, and it adds up, and that money could then be used on a new player.
Well, I will pose this counter to you as well, because I was one of the questions going to come up in extra time. But I would provide a counter argument to you, Lou and Ben, not to play devil's advocate, because this is something I do somewhat gives credence to. So Mohamed Salah goes next year to Saudi Arabia or wherever, 200 million, let's just say. I think we'll pay about 150, but let's say that goes. and Thiago goes on free next year to Barcelona. That's two really big characters that you're losing in the locker room, and those are big shoes that need to be filled. Is there not an argument to just give him an extra contract, knowing he's a luxury player, because he brings experience, he brings a work ethic. No one's going to sit there and be like, oh, I can't believe it's not David De Gea at Manchester United, where all contract talks start at 200,000 pounds a week, because everyone could say that Thiago Alcantara is probably one of the more talented players in all of Europe. Is there not an argument just to keep him around, being a luxury player, and just keeping the locker room, keeping the culture together, kind of similar with Matip, and why we tried to sign Alana and Milner on those 1-year contract extensions all those years? What do you think, Lou, to that?
I think if you wanted a leader in your dressing room, you should have kept James Milner.
Well, they did. They did try. Klopp did try.
They did try. Definitely, he did try. And I agree that Klopp keeping Milner would have made a lot of sense. But I think Thiago paying that just to keep someone around who we're speculating is a leader, as opposed to, like you say, like a Milner who we know is a leader because he was the vice captain, and we saw his application when he smacked Tsimikas in the head because he messed up defensively. We knew he was a leader on and off the pitch. Thiago, just because he's an experienced player and he's been there, done that with Bayern and Barcelona, we're just making the assumption that he's a leader. And I think for that amount of money that we're paying him a week, it's a lot when we could be, shifting that responsibility onto Trent or, a Curtis Jones, who's a Scouser, who's been in the club for a long time, or maybe Nunez, when he learns the language, he might in the future, or Szoboszlai. It's the amount of money we'd be spending on him for leadership. So, air quote, I just don't see the benefit of it when there's other players who we know are more leadership quality or could be in the future.
Ben, what do you think?
The only way that I see, I mean, I totally understand about what you're saying about losing the character behind the scenes and stuff like that. But on 200 grand a week, Thiago, you can't pay 200 grand a week, 250 grand a week for someone just to, for something like that. The wages would have to drop. But there was something that the role that I could see Thiago, the only role that I could see Thiago staying is on a reduced salary, and maybe the potential where after Liverpool, does he stop playing? At this point, does he start looking at maybe moving into like some sort of coaching role? And is there something more behind the scenes at the club that he could do, taking into consideration that if Andre was coming in and Bišetic and McAllister, maybe there might be something there. But I don't think that Salah goes. I don't. I would rather Thiago leave and tie Salah down to an extra year because that guy is a machine and he will continue doing what he's doing for many more years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually, I've come around to the idea, and, we'll start this with we're moving extra time here shortly, but, I've come into the idea that, I just want Mohamed Salah to stay at Liverpool until he retires, Kenny Dalglish style, because he's evolved himself as a footballer so much. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to move into extra time real quick. So I've saved a few questions. We'll talk about that one at a time. But, I would like the chat to respond to that as well. Do we extend Salah's contract? Do you want Salah to stay at Liverpool until he retires, or do you want to sell him for a hypothetical number? Let's make 150 the max, because I actually think that's the realistic max that we get for him. So, we'll start with we'll come back to that, and I just want to start with a few comments that I've saved, which starts with midfield options. So we're gonna do this because Neil. Oh crap! I just lost it. Neil, I'll have to come back to that. But let's start. But I'll just talk about it real quick until I can pull it back up. So Czech Decore, do you think Czech Decore would be a good option for Liverpool to buy next year as a midfield rebuild? I know we already talked about it, but Czech Decore, what do you think? Yay, nay? Personally, I don't think. I think he showed he's probably not good enough, but that's just my opinion.
For me, depends on the sort of money that is touted around. If it's going to be a stupid number, then absolutely not. If it's available, we can pick him up at a price where we're buying the potential. then maybe. But at this point, nay.
Nay, I got one nay. Lou, are you on the nays or you on the yays?
Yeah, I'm a nay. Money-wise, it'd be a lot, and he might have a brilliant season this season. That's only going to increase the price. There's definitely a player there, and I think he's restricted in a Roy Hodgson system where he's not allowed to sort of express himself. But he has one more good season, and suddenly we're talking about 100 plus million when he was already being rumoured at around 70 this summer just gone. So it's a no for me.
Yeah, no, I got that. Alrighty, so next one, Paul, going a little bit too crazy with this. So, what is our ideal defensive partnership? That's my extra time question, and people in the chat and watching, I want you guys to tell me as well. What would be your ideal partnership? Because because Paul, similar to Lou, thinks that Van Dijk might be on the decline a little bit. So, what do you guys think is our best center back pairing? Lou, I'll come to you first.
I still think despite what I said before, I do still think it is Van Dijk and Konate. The problem you've got is, say, Konate plays every game, he gets injured. Matip plays every game, he gets injured. It's a bit of a vicious cycle where there's never a set partnership. I still think Van Dijk Konate is the ideal one. It's not sustainable just purely because of injury. Konate has the potential to overtake Van Dijk. And it sounds daft. He's the best slide tackle of a ball I think I've ever seen. Some of the tackles he makes are ridiculous. So yeah, I think they're still the best two. It's just whether it stays fit or not.
So Ben, I'm gonna throw the question to you because we are in extra time. But Lou, you can answer this after Ben gives his wisdom as well. Could you see a Gomez Konate, starting partnership ahead of Van Dijk? And let's say theoretically let's say it's we're 30, near the end of the season, we're 5 games in, we got a Europa League tie, Van Dijk has to choose one, let's say, I don't know what the schedule is right now if we're looking, but let's say hypothetically we're playing Manchester United, a mid-table team, some dangerous players, but not really that good, kind of a bit overhyped. Could you see a Konate Gomez being our starting partnership at the end of the year?
No. And just a straight answer, no, because I just think that the fact that Verge is the captain, I still think he offers a lot, and I just don't think you can bench your captain. And I think if there was any intentions of anything like that, then they probably wouldn't have given him the armband. So I don't see it. For me, Konate and Van Dijk are still the best central pairing that we've got. But yeah, no, I can't see it. I mean, listen, I could see it in certain games. There's going to be a lot of games this season. Let's not forget that. There's going to be an awful lot of games, but I don't see it. I don't see it as like a mainstay, if that makes sense. I see it as more as a suspension or an injury that causes that to happen.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you as well. Even though Neil, I think I agree with both of you guys. Part of my throwing some wrenches into this fight machine, with some Gomez hype. No, I absolutely agree. I think Van Dijk and Konate are still the best two, just because they complement each other so well. The pace, the passing, the tackling, the defensive awareness. I do think at times Konate is a bit not reckless, but maybe at times is just not aware. I think he can kind of lose his head a little bit, not as much as Dexy Lovren did. Go ahead, man.
Do you think, because I know I've mentioned it before, do you think that Konate, for me, brilliant, super fast, and I know there was a lot of talk about Konate, Upamecano I can never say that name, but he's head and shoulders above him. But for me, I've said it before. I feel that Konate, in an in-game moment, if something knocks his confidence, it takes a little while for that to be for his head to be put back on, if that makes sense. So I think as he matures, because he's still only young, isn't he? As he matures and as he develops extra elements into his game, I think you're looking at one of the best defenders in the world. The potential in Konate is just through the roof.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think he's France's best center back, right now going forward. And France have Koundé and like a bunch of other young center backs. And I think they still have, Varane still plays for them as well, though Varane's what, like 29, 28, but like he can't stay fit. Lou, are you on to my Konate slander a bit? Very minor slander.
What, like as in the
like a little erratic. Yeah, a little erratic. Like I think at times.
Yeah.
Because I think at times he does a lot of Gomez mistakes, but he doesn't get as much grief for it as Gomez. Maybe that's just my Gomez bias, in many ways. But listen, I love Konate. I think he's the best as well. Are you onto that or not?
Yeah, he can. I think I agree with what Ben said. His head can go, and I think this is why him and Van Dijk partner each other so well. Because, like I said before, Van Dijk's legs seem like they're starting to go. So Konate is the quick one to cover the space. Konate's head starts to go in those moments. Van Dijk's the calm one who's like, right, just. You'll be fine, get it together and we'll get through it. They complement each other really well. It's like you said, it's the injuries for him that are clearly a bit of a problem, same as when Matip first joined. And I think that's the only thing that sort of maybe deters people. There's definitely a mistake in there because, like you say, he can be erratic at times, but he's quick. Like I said, he's the best slide tackle on a ball. He can easily win it. And like against quick players, so but it's a weird thing. Solanke was like the fastest player so far this season. If he can keep pace with anyone who's that quick, and he's so good on the ball. He fits the system well. He's so young. He's already been to a World Cup final or in the squad even. So he's ideal, and I think he's got potential to, like I say, overtake Van Dijk in the future.
I just want to throw one thing out there as well, just before we move on that subject of centre backs. Matthias de Ligt can't get a game for Bayern Munich at the moment.
Yeah, that's so weird. They spent like 60, 80 million from him from Juventus. Like, are you saying we should go for de Ligt there, Ben?
Well, I just think with the amount of Dutch players we've got at the moment, it's inevitable that link's going to be coming our way.
Yeah, I mean, he's the same exact age as Konate, and yeah, you know what? He's been there for now. No, not one season, but he's been there for one season. He's played 34 games.
Couple of years now, yeah.
Yeah. So he was at Juve for 3 years, and he's at he just got the Bayern. They paid 67 million euros for him. Again, almost one Dom Soboslai. As well. Listen, no, I think de Ligt, let's inspire the whole Dutch national team. I'm okay with that. That never goes wrong. Like, Dutch teams do great in finals, historically speaking. So speaking of, let's do some rapid fire ones here, guys, and we'll wrap this up. So Jay Muse, who is always great. Thank you, Jay Muse, for always contributing, and especially with extra time. Kwanzaa, 2-year starter. What do you think?
Yeah, if something drastic happens and Van Dijk either leaves or Konate leaves.
I think in 2 years Van Dijk may not be starting games. Is what I think. Even he might be the captain, but he play like half the games. Ben, what do you think?
No. It's got the potential. It's got the potential, but I genuinely believe that Konate is going to the very top, and I believe that we will. I still believe we're going to be buying a top centre back in January, or summer at least a succession planning for. I don't believe that Kwanzaa is the succession plan for Van Dijk. That being said, I do believe that he'll be amongst the mix, knocking on the door. But I wouldn't say that he's the succession to Virgil van Dijk.
He might be deceitful. Like when Reece Williams first came in, and we thought, "Oh my god, he looks amazing," and he might just have 1 or 2 good games, and it hypes everyone up.
Yeah, no, I get that. I part of me was kind of like leaning towards that for the summer, but when we saw Reece play, you could tell he wasn't into his body yet. His stride wasn't there. When the few times we saw Jurgen Klopp play, like, it feels like he's already spilled out into his body, like he's already kind of a man, so to speak. This is the kind of weird thing about youth players that some youth players develop much later and really don't hit to their full stride to their 24. 25. He might fly to see like Reece, but I listen. I've been all over Kwanzaa since preseason. I'm like, I think he'd be our 5th choice. Go ahead, Ben.
I just feel that there'd have to be so many circumstances and scenarios to actually give Kwanzaa that opportunity to kind of get a run of games, if that makes sense. I know obviously we're in the Europa League and he'll have his opportunities there this year, but I think that eventually probably is one of them ones that will maybe go out on loan and develop his game away from the club and come back to us as a better player. I don't see him breaking into a regular starter anytime soon. Even with a year or two, talking at that sort of that time length, because I believe that succession planning is going to be a big buy to succeed Virgil van Dijk.
So speaking of succession planning, and and we'll leave this to the last one. Are we extending Salah to the end of time? Are we going to give him the Kenny Dalglish treatment? What do you guys like? I, for one, am all for Liverpool FC going into bankruptcy just to keep Mohamed Salah at the club. That's my feelings on it. Completely rational, not emotional. Nothing with that as well. But what do you guys think? Do we extend Salah essentially until he ends his career at Liverpool? Or, controversially, do we sell him for 150 and try to rebuild the team with that money?
No, I don't.
I'm Keith. Yeah. Go on, sorry, that's you.
Go ahead, Ben.
I don't think you can sell him, to be honest with you, because you look at the shape he's in as well. He's in absolutely fantastic shape, and if you look at Messi's still set. I know he's in the MLS, but he's still at the peak of his powers there. And Salah, a similar sort of stature, similar sort of build. He's got many of years at the top. And I think that another interesting thing with Salah is you're starting to see a bit of an evolution to him as well at the moment. He's gone from being this goal scoring game after game after game to he's actually taking pride in setting other players up for the goal as well, and you can see that he's developing that part of his game. So even if he was to lose a bit of speed and he's not scoring as many goals, he still knows how to pick deadly balls. So for me, you've got to extend Salah. If you would have asked me that question maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago, I probably would have said 200 million and he's gone. But knowing the way that football's going at the moment, I think you've got to keep him, even for 150 million quid. But you've got to extend him. I think there's got to be a conversation at some point going into the summer next year between the club and Salah. Do you want to extend? We're willing to extend. If you're not going to extend, well, obviously we're going to accept an offer. So I think that mutual respect's already there. But yeah, I do as whatever's possible to tie him down to. I wouldn't even say an extra year. I'd say an extra couple of years. I'd say an extra 2 years. But I think the difficulty is that with him being a Muslim, and obviously Saudi, they desperately want him. I don't know whether there'll be temptation there. I don't. You just don't know from the player side, but from a club point of view, I'd do whatever possible to tie him down and give him a fresh contract.
Lou, I'll give you the final word on this panel for that because I've already made my thoughts pretty clear. But I'll give you the final word tonight, and we'll wrap this up. What are your thoughts?
No, I completely agree. I think Salah is this. There's a few big things that he does. I've mentioned several times. It's the money that he brings in as well outside of on the pitch. He attracts the Muslim market. He attracts viewership from that side of the world, that demographic, which is a big financial income for the club. He's our second highest shirt sales now behind Szoboszlai. The impact he has, it's not even like he's ever dipped. His goals dip, but then his assists go up. One season he's pressuring opposition players more, but then the next he's scoring more goals. He's so versatile. He's such a big figure for the club, and he's one of the greatest success stories, I think, in Premier League history. I mean, from what he went through at Chelsea, the price that we got him for, to turn him into this player that's now being touted around 200 million is ridiculous. If you put that, and it's a controversial one, and I'd love to get people's opinions in the future, if you did the Torres, Suarez, Salah who's the best. I think Salah's personally the best. I think the goals he scored, he's given us some of the greatest memories as Liverpool fans ever. The impact he has on and off the pitch, the relationship he has with the club, everything he does, he never makes a disturbance. He's so happy to be there, and the impact that he has on the pitch is second to none. When you can outscore Gerrard and you can break the records he does and score against the teams that he does in the fashion that he does, it can't be replaced. And Salah, for me, should be preserved at this club till the day he retires and immortalised in some way, whether it's a statue, a plaque, because he's so important to the history of the club.
Could not have put it better myself. I think we'll end it there, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content. Again, daily streams. There's a podcast always coming out with new information. There's always interviews coming up. Again, check out the one about Andre and Fluminense, which is on the YouTube channel, but also on Spotify and all your podcast streaming apps. Thank you, Jamie Hughes, for being here as always. Neil, red, white, and red. Excuse me. Helior, as always, everyone who's joining today. Paul, thank you always for your insight and your questions as well. And I think there's one Geordie fan in here as well. Thank you for joining. I can't believe that you want to join this after winning 8-0. It must not be fun over there in Newcastle to not enjoy the 8-0 win. I've been joined today by lovely Ben, magnificent Lou. First time stream together, guys. It's been a pleasure. Everyone, have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great morning. This is Dan signing off.